Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions. We're going to do a special selection today, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's selection comes at us from Johnny Truant, The Sounds of Animals Fighting, Act 1, Chasing Suns, demo version. A supergroup that in this recording consisted of RX Bandits, Anthony Green of Circa Survive, and Craig Owens of Chiodos on vocals. Yeah, this sounds right up my alley. We've done Sounds of Animals Fighting before, and I don't think I knew this. I had the wiki up because I wanted to see, because I'm a huge fan of Craig Owens, and apparently he was in the 2006 live lineup, but I was looking at the studio album that this comes off of, and he's not in the personnel list. But when I look at the history of it, Craig was there at the beginnings of this, so I'm going to assume Craig is on this demo version, but I don't know why he's not listed for as personnel on the first LP, the proper release of this. Anyways, we're gonna be looking at the track Act 1, Chasing Suns, from The Sounds of Animals Fighting. Let's dig into this and see what's going on. Ooh, that is disorienting. That's Craig. I love the palm muted line, the raw intensity and energy behind it. It's so interesting to hear them take such a disjointed, individualistic approach to music writing and bring it together for this moment. So I noticed that the intro also seemed like it pulled out from the track before. So does the whole album run together? It's interesting because earlier this week, I was introduced. It might have been late last week, might have been over the weekend. I was introduced to Isles and Glaciers, which is another post-hardcore supergroup with Craig Owens in it. Um, and Johnny Craig, I think, was the other one. Uh, Former Dance Gavin Dance vocalist, and Vic, what's his name from Pierce the Veil. And it reminds me a lot of this. Um, in that I love it, but it is a lot of a lot. There are a lot of cooks in the kitchen here. Um, and there's a lot of musical styles, personal tastes, personal just compositional techniques trying to fight each other for the spotlight. And I enjoy it in some capacity. I mean, for instance, our chorus, what we ended on there, and what we had before our guitar break, the bridge, absolutely phenomenal. We've got our lead vocalist. We have our vocalization in the background, just holding out that one tone. By the end of this 4 bar phrase, we get a harsh vocal in to wrap it up and bring it back around. At that point, we have three vocals going on, and then we also have two guitars doing their own thing. Very, Hail the Sun, Mars Volta style of just kind of being chaotic. There is this really fast 16th note lick that is all over the place. We can hear it in our core guitar lick. But we can also hear this like 4 to 5 rapid hits so often in our lead guitar, just all over the place, even outside of this core lick to the track. And it creates a ton of energy and momentum and complexity, that is trying to fight for dominant prominence against all of the other lead elements in here. And that's what I mean by, like, I enjoy it, but it's a lot. I'm a huge fan of vocal melody, harmony. I'm a huge fan of layered melodic writing, counterpoint, hockets, anything that requires multiple instruments to pull off a melodic concept. And all of that is happening here simultaneously with five lead instruments. And the funny thing is that there's like nothing under them. That's just kind of it. There's nothing really foundational. There is a keyboard or a synth of some sort that kind of started out doing foundational stuff at the beginning, the very beginning of the track, but shifted quickly to ornamental ideas and texture based ideas. And the bottom of the track is just kind of there, which is neat. There's so much going on, you don't even really notice that there's no foundation to the track. The drum and the bass kind of do their best to fill it in, but that's really not a lot for foundational filling. But this is a demo. I remember in a separate conversation from the comment that was left on this, Johnny Truant, the person who suggested it, had mentioned that they enjoy the demo more. It just sounds better to their ears, and it's to me it's a little rough around the edges, especially on the vocal production, the balancing of some of the instruments. I think it's what makes it feel like a lot of a lot. There can definitely be a bit of production tweaking on this to sort of give each voice its own, a little bit more of its own space, so they can all coexist the way that they want. Five lead elements. um, but I can certainly understand, especially if you heard this first and a lot, how a different mix of it could certainly sound off or wrong or just not as good. Um, so I'm curious what the non-demo version sounds like, but yeah, this was interesting. So aside from all of these melodies going off at the same time, there is an experimental side to this. Before we even got to the chorus, we had this really fast 16th note palm muted idea going on in both of our guitars. They were presented higher up in the mix with more volume than I would expect for a palm muted idea. And this is something we talked about earlier this week is perceived volume of a sound. Right? When we think of a flute, it shouldn't be louder than a guitar typically, right? A single flute and an electric guitar. And an electric guitar shouldn't be quieter than, you know, something that you would expect to be pretty quiet. Electric guitars have electricity, especially if they're distorted. We expect them to be overdriven. So, like, things can sound odd or wrong just because the volume doesn't match what we perceive them to be. Palm muting is a way to, by definition, right there in the name, it's a muting technique. It reduces sound. So it's interesting that it's so high up in this mix, but it also gets put in the same volume range as the vocals that are going on at the time, which I believe they were trading off, which is really neat because our vocalists were panned left and right along with our guitars, which left a emptiness in the middle channel. And like this is all where I'm getting at with like this is hyper experimental. There's so many different ideas going on in here that I don't think I've heard before that I'm not sure if they work, but they work. At the same time, we have this really fast thing going on rhythmically in our guitar. We also have complex rhythmic ideas going on in the drums. They're not just sitting back there and being a metronome. And our two vocalists are going back and forth with their own rhythms as well. It is a convoluted mess of a section. And that's what I mean when I say it doesn't really work. It is exceptionally messy. This is definitely a song where the producer is going to be carrying so much weight on their back to making the track listenable. But when I say that despite it not working, it works, it still sounds really great in a chaotic way. It's not as. You know what it kind of reminds me of, though? I've already brought him up, is Mars Volta, but with more focus, a condensed version of that, taking the chaos of it all during, when we checked out Cassandra Gemini, which I'll pop a link up there for you so you can find that. When I checked out Cassandra Gemini, I mentioned that there were some parts of it that really appealed to, my post-hardcore love. Even though that they were a bit more chaotic, I still grooved with them. But then we would, inevitably leave from that for something meandering or jammy or just purely noisy or chaotic, without any of that melodic or harmonic underpinning. This is if Mars Volta doesn't do any of the esoteric stuff and just sticks with the noisy rock. And I can get behind this. And I know, y'all have told me, Mars Volta has more straightforward tracks. I know, I haven't gotten around to them on my own time yet. I know Mars Volta doesn't just do their avant-garde writing, but this, this is pretty much at the brink, the the breaking point of me and chaos, and so it makes me want to check out more from them. Also, before we get into anything else, um, Isles and Glaciers, and now Sounds of Animals Fighting. If anybody else knows of any post hardcore supergroups with multiple vocalists, especially if one of them is Craig Owens, let me know. I don't know how I've gone so long without knowing about these groups, but This has been a fantastic week of discovery for Bryan. So, all of this kind of comes to the bridge. It is the dividing point for me. If the first half and the outro, by virtue of taking one of the parts of the first half and repeating it, are about noisy chaos of multiple lead lines all doing their own things, the bridge says maybe we have too much of that. Let's take it down a notch. And a lot of the bridge is unification of sound. We lose the split guitar idea for both guitars doing roughly the same thing. Sometimes they harmonize, but a majority of the time they are playing the exact same thing. Both of our vocalists are gone, so we don't have those competing with anything. Our drums are kind of what drive everything, as well as the bass line. And we just kind of explore some groovy atmospheric sounds. Melody is something that pops up here and there, but it's not something that is always present. The riff, though, is. And so this is an interesting exploration of the basically the tonal and energetic opposite of what we had seen at the beginning of the track. I found it to be a nice moment to breathe, to take things in. I think if they had kept it at 10 for the entire track, I would have been exhausted on the other end of it, despite it only being 5 minutes or something like that. Having this moment in the middle to take a breath and figure out what I just listened to, it was nice. But on the whole, I'm kind of curious what it represents in the themes, because it does kind of come out of nowhere and contradicts everything that the song is. So let's hit some lyrics here. Um, I did read a little bit of these, because I was doing my research, right? So I was like, since I got Wikipedia, I might as well get the lyrics pulled up on this. And I don't know. This is super vague. I mean, first of all, it doesn't feel like this is all the lyrics. Granted, this is off of their debut LP, not the demo EP. So it could be that they remove some of the words, but there's only 6 stanzas here. Um, it starts off says 5 on fire, raise the bar, grace glorified. All the fault you call has taken its toll. I jump out the window. Maybe if I had more time, hours to stare at this, be like, what could this mean? I might get it, but it just seems like the music chaotic. Images, sentences thrown together that don't necessarily have anything to do with each other on the surface. It's more about the way that the syllables come together. The chorus that we hear at the end says, yeah, both eyes open wide, more faking excuses blowing this place apart, both repeat when he gets back. What? So I have no read on the lyrics, so I can't really comment on what the bridge is supposed to represent based on the lyrical themes, because I don't know what those are, and I can't really see its connection to the rest of the musical themes because it just runs counter. That's really the only connection I see, is that it is the opposite of what we explored previously. I did see, interestingly, that this is a concept album, or at least it was intended to be a concept album. Oh, it is. It revolves around the title character Duke and the captain who runs the ship that they're sailing. The cargo of the ship are crazy animals who howl and fight below the deck, and eventually the captain's sons start a mutiny, and the captain jumps off the ship. Okay, I still don't get it. But some things are starting to click with that. Um, and it's almost possibly that it starts in media res, or maybe that the opening track, Overture, is an instrumental. So, nope, this could. I was going to say that maybe we have a setup in our Overture, but we don't. It's an instrumental. Um, and if our interludes are instrumental, then we only have five full. Nope. What? How do we skip from track 9 to 14? What in the world? Okay, there's a reissue that. Okay, the reissue does some wonky stuff with its listing. That's why. So yeah, and there's only four proper songs on here. Everything else is interludes, intros, or outros. Although our outro might have lyrics. Nope, it's an instrumental as well. So, although it is 6 minutes, so that's a proper song. Which is funny because Isles and Glaciers only has four proper songs on it, and then three, minute long interludes. So that's weird. Not I was not expecting so many parallels between this album and that one. And they both came out around the same time. I think only like 2 years between each other. These super groups. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the sound of animals fighting. Act 1, Chasing Suns, original EP demo mix. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up with your thoughts. Let me know if you enjoyed it, anything that stood out to you, anything you'd like to correct me on, add on to what I stated, anything like that. Put those comments down in the comments. Got ahead of myself with that word and then I repeated it. Above the comments is a description box. There's no comments in the description box, though there are links, and one of them you'll find goes to Linktree. You can find my music, a link to the Discord server, ways to support the channel, and so much more. Go ahead and check that out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three. Alright, we do have a creator request today, which is a fantastic way to learn about new music on the horizon, up and coming artists, stuff like that. I'm pretty excited to get into that. Otherwise, we do have an album review tomorrow. Sunday, we will have a live stream. And Monday, we will be starting with a fresh theme, which is, positive confusion. Songs that you have no idea what it was about. You kind of left with in a dizzy state of mind, but you're like, yeah, I'd like more of that. I don't know what it was, but give me another hit. Um, so I'm excited about that week. All right, until next time, you guys, be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.